Welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time for us to punch you with the punch and other papers and see what the front pages are saying. We're joined by public affairs analyst Dotun Ojon. Good morning.
Good morning and happy holiday.
Happy which holiday? Say what? He's really thrilled.
Yes. I wasn't expecting to see all of the ties and all of that.
You really got
I wanted something.
The show goes on, and you're part of us.
So you too, happy holidays. Yeah. All right, let's start off with the Punch newspaper and talk about the big stories. Of course, the biggest story this morning is the lynched travelers. CDS squad goes after killers as Apollo consults governors. 14 arrested as governor suspends security corps boss, illegal vigilante groups. Obasa pursues suit against Miranda. We are still on this one. Lawmakers, despite Tinubu's intervention. NCDC heightened surveillance as Lassa fever kills 118. Oyo wage bill now 24 billion naira monthly, says Governor Seyi Makinde. Rivers, federal government awaits service of PDP governor's suit. Petrol price to rise more as naira for crude talks world bull.
Shouldn't rise more, please.
Please now, who did we offend?
I can't remember the last time I had fill up in a gas station.
Gas station fill up. Honestly, it's even advisable to fill up if you can, because you never know when there'll be when there'll be scarcity or a price increase. Fill up is what helped me one day. The day I finished filling up, the next day, price increase and scarcity at the same time. World Bank to approve Nigeria's $632 million loan request today. And Eid al-Fitr, Tinubu National Assembly governors preach peace, police heighten security nationwide. That's all on the Punch. Let's go to the Daily Independent.
Now, on the front page of the Daily Independent, the headline says, inefficiencies, liquidity strain hold down power sector growth. I mean, I believe it's beyond this, because what has been holding it down since I was a kid, it's almost like rocket science to have 24 hours electricity. Enough of excuses. Nigerians just want to see power. Rivers emergency rule, court summons Tinubu, Akpabio, others, Abbas and others. Serap asked Akpabio, Abbas to withdraw bill to jail Nigerians for not voting. That's very outrageous. I mean, some of us are journalists and we have to cover, we're on election beats. Some have to be in the studio. Doesn't mean you're going to come and arrest me if I'm not able to physically vote. Olive, I have to protect you on that day.
Well, the good thing,
I will hold down the show. You go and vote.
I don't mind going down to vote. I'll be reporting live from the studio, then I'll come and do the second half and you then go and vote.
That's fine. You're a wise woman. Air passengers missing baggage hits 47,923 in 12 months in Nigeria. It's one thing you really don't want to go through. It's and I wonder what the cause is. We need to do something about this urgently. Police summons Sanusi II's councillor over Eid al-Fitr violence in Kano. Sad news there. Tinubu charges Nigerians on love charity for vulnerable citizens. Heritage Bank, NDIC to commence payment of uninsured balances. At Nigeria Economic Summit Group unveils new roadmap to Nigeria to drive Nigeria's economic development. Lassa fever claims 118 lives in 3 months, says the NCDC. And Urome killings, Edo government sacks State Security Corps boss. That's all on the Daily Independent.
All right, the Daily Times says 109 new Nigerian newspaper workers die awaiting payments from northern state governors. Really sad. Northern Can condemns Urome killings, urges calmness as governor sacks commander. Without wise reports, no genuine electoral reforms, Okechukwu says. Choice of PDP running mates strategic not popularity contest, Atiku tells Wiki. We're still on this one too. Niger Republic quits Lake Chad military force. And at the top, we can see reps recover over $14 million from oil companies as recoveries now exceed 50 billion naira. Senate's rejection of Professor Nwosu's immortalization, an appeal to Mr. President on the front page, the commentary there. Maybe we should start with that one. Your thoughts on the move to immortalize Professor Nwosu. You know, they talked about the role that he played in what is considered Nigeria's freest and fairest election yet. And you could see how it became a subject of debate in the House. The deputy speaker saying that Some people some people are in support. Others think that his role in the elections was controversial. But what are your thoughts about this?
Extremely controversial. But when war broke out between Ukraine and Russia the other time, a lot of people were advising the president of Ukraine on what to do. And I saw my timeline, and I was telling my friend that these are the people who run to their parlor whenever they have issues with their wives. Now they are advising the president on what to do with law. And it's an extension of that this morning, because a lot of people who could not stay in the face of a military general will now advise a man on what to do when he's leading an election that is monitored by a military regime. It's neither here nor there. The argument for him has been the fact that the courage that his ability to be able to organize election, credible election, as the case was in 1993. But of course, people thought that that same courage should have been extended to announcing the result at the end of the day, even at the expense of whatever it is that was at stake at that point. So it's a conversation that is neither here nor there. But I think the best way to immortalize anybody, whether the man who died in the course of election, my father who had an accident during election, and all of these people, is to actually procure good government for Nigerians. Anything outside of this, we can name
a thriving democracy.
A thriving democracy. We can name anything after anybody. If at the end of the day, we do not give the dividend of democracy to the Nigerian people, I listened to the president talk about having pity for the vulnerable. Unfortunately, when you're talking about the level of vulnerability now, you're talking about 90% of your population. They're vulnerable. I'm also vulnerable. People can no longer feed as a result of the fact that, oh, you said you were trying to fix things. So the level of vulnerability has become very high now that people have begun to doubt the efficacy of democracy. Because the essence of democracy, like I've said repeatedly, is to give to the people what they cannot give to themselves. Now the people are so helpless because they cannot give themselves food. They cannot give themselves shelter. So the best way to immortalize anybody is for everybody in the corridor of power today to come together and vow that they are going to deliver the dividend of democracy. You may name a university after my father. It's going to mean nothing to my generation if at the end of the day there's no food on their table. So our conversation should move from individualism to communism. Our conversation should move from self to society. And we must get to a point where we must all agree that the best way to immortalize anybody is to actually procure good governance.
But you know, if we were to go by that argument, then people would say, why did we have to declare the MKO Abiola Day? Why did we have to push for that? Why did we have to celebrate him in the way that we did, if we were to go by this argument?
Okay, so I think it's about the person of MKO Abiola and the belief of the community in his personality. A lot of people today, and whether he will have been a fantastic president should be a conversation for the academics. But again, we had somebody who was able to unify Nigerian people. Let me tell you that the major challenge we have with leadership in Nigeria today is what I call the 3 R's: resentment, religion, and whatever it is. But we had a unifier. In the last election was almost dividing everybody. We had interest here and there. But MK Abiola came as a unifier, and a lot of people from across board voted without considering whether he was a Muslim, voted without considering whether he was a Yoruba man, voted without considering whether he was of SDP. In fact, we had people in other political parties, when Abiola became the candidate of SDP, who voted for him. And there were records of that. So I think we should have this conversation forward thinking.
He was also jailed.
Yes, forward thinking in a way that we let everybody know that conversation around, somebody is Lord, somebody is God, should not be. There should be a conversation around how democracy should better serve the people. And that in any way does not take away the input of everyone. We have a lot of people who fought for democracy. In fact, the sitting president today is one of the voices that called for democracy. Omoyele Sowore, my cousin, has been a fantastic fight in the course of procuring democracy for the people. So we have a whole lot of people. How can we immortalize everybody? The best way to do that is to procure good governance for the people of Nigeria, in my opinion.
Well,
We have to also immortalize you for your contribution on Breakfast Central.
Thank you, but I do think that this is a very, sensitive conversation.
It is
a very touchy subject for a number of
Mm.
people because there have also been the ethnic colorations that have been attached to this and saying that if you say that MK Abiola should be immortalized and rightfully so because of the role he played in the
Why
elections,
not
then how about the person who had the guts to go ahead with the elections? Because if he didn't, these elections wouldn't have happened, and then we wouldn't have been able to celebrate MK. So the arguments here and there, but we'll come back to touch on more stories after this break.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central here on News Central Television, and we're currently looking at the front pages of the newspapers. Remember, you could call in and share your thoughts with us. Still have in the studio Mr. Dotun Ojon. Now, we were talking about elections and immortalizing or not immortalizing Mr. Henry Nwosu, the late Professor Henry Nwosu. Now, still on election matters, I saw this headline on the Daily Independent and I just thought, how is this possible? Serap asks Akpabio Abbas to withdraw bill to jail Nigerians for not voting. What do you make of this?
Let's even give details of that bill, please, before we go ahead. So the bill is titled, I saw the name just now. Yes. The bill is titled, "A Bill for an Act to Amend the Electoral Act 2022 to make it mandatory for all Nigerians of majority age to vote in all national and state elections and for related matters." And then its provision is that they would impose a 6-month jail term or a fine of 100,000 naira or both on eligible Nigerians who fail to vote in national and state elections.
Okay. So it's a bit cumbersome, but I'll try to.
There's a voter apathy problem.
Yeah. So now in a community where you have 15%, 10% of your populace determine who rules you, it's not a healthy community. Unfortunately, it's also an indictment. They're trying to pass an indictment because if you had 250 million people in a community, and at the end of the day, somebody becomes your president with 10 million votes, with 12 million votes. In the first place, that person should have been the president of his Agbole, his family house, not the president of Nigeria in the first instance.
It's not a broad reflection.
Yes, not a broad. But before laws like this would be communicated in the National Assembly, there will have been a framework that allows Nigeria, that gives the Nigerian the ability to vote wherever they may be. For example, you are a journalist. Maybe you are covering, there must be something like electronic vote
or early vote.
Or early vote that will ease the process. Now people go out as early as, as early as 7 a.m. By the time you get to the polling unit sometimes, getting beavers to accredit you and all of that is always very cumbersome. Where I voted in the last election, in fact, it was because I had run for election. I was almost the #1 person in that polling unit. I saw the suffering of people. People had to come, queue as early as possible, and they waited in the sun. So before you make a law that mandates people, there must be something that softens, that creates an opportunity for the people to have the ability to make it easy for the people to vote. I think the intent is that they are disappointed at the product of our election. What do I mean by product of our election? Our election over the years has shown that the worst of us may continue to rule the rest of us if something urgent is not done. But in the absence of strategic thinking as to providing solution of something that can be done, they think that, once we mandate everybody to vote,
threaten them with jail time.
No. So in every same I'm trying to make this quick point. In every same community, in where democracy thrives across the world, there's no place in the world where people are coerced to vote.
Thank you for highlighting that.
It's a product of education. You continue to enlighten the people, you continue to educate them. And our level of illiteracy, unfortunately, certification cannot cure it. If a truck full of petrol falls today at this particular place, people will still rush there to scoop fuel. It shows that we need constant engagement, engaging the heart of our people, telling them the importance of election. And this is not going to happen overnight, but coercing people may not actually bring the result. But I understand the thinking behind the bill.
I really like that you mentioned that there's nowhere where voting is, not voting is criminalized, because saying that someone has a right to vote should imply that they also have a right to not vote.
Yeah.
Especially in a country where our voting systems have been under scrutiny, the results of our elections have been judged unfairly by Nigerians. The system, even the quality of our elections, have been judged to be unfair. We're just talking about the freest and the fairest election so far in Nigeria.
1993.
Look at how long ago it happened, and yet we're in 2025, and we can't say that our election processes can be deemed to be free, fair, credible, without any form of bias, without any form of chaos. So there are other areas that maybe should be considered. The argument for Sarah, for example, is that the priority should be placed on certain reforms, such as removing of immunity clauses for the president, the vice president, and the likes. But we'll come back to talk about that. Let's quickly hear from Clement calling from Lagos State. Good morning, Clement.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Please go ahead with your comments.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We cannot hear you, Clement. All right.
Okay, so the best way to coerce the people, quote unquote now, positive coercion, is to make them believe in the system that you want them to participate in. As long as your people do not believe in your election process, there's no magic. You are still going to make the law, it's not going to work. I always tell people, we do not need new law to drive anything in Nigeria. We only need a change of logic. What we need is for the people to believe that if I vote truly, my vote is going to count. And once they have this, then they begin to identify that they've been able to, as a result of their vote, they've been able to maybe vote for credible people in election, and they want to participate in the next election. But as long as they think, and it's a subject of perception. I keep hammering on the issue of perception. Right. As long as the people think that their elections are not working for them, they are not going to participate. There's nothing.
So how do we fix this? And how do they restore confidence and trust in INEC?
But before you respond to that, let's take a call from Worry. Festus is calling this morning. Good morning, Festus. Please go ahead. Good morning. Thank you very much.
Congratulations once again for very, very important issue affecting us as citizens and Nigerians.
Thank you very much.
The leadership in Nigeria has made us to believe that there are others that are true citizens of this country, while others are impostors of having us. The first and foremost, the government has failed to set the tide the people the true meaning of what we should know. It only shows that no job, not only the essence of those that people in this country. You have to ask me how many percent of Nigerians don't know their rights. The people don't want you to know, so they keep to sit upon
What's trouble with your audio, Festus?
Sorry, Festus, we will have to let you go because of the quality of your audio. You might try to call us back. Thank you.
Please.
Yeah.
I think I could manage to pick one or two things from what he was saying, even though the audio was really poor, about, the government making us feel like there are two categories of people, sort of the segregation in the citizenry, and I think that it's important to have these conversations. But you had asked him a question and,
Oh, yes, restoring trust in the electoral system and people not just sitting at home on election day watching Premier League or playing football on the empty streets saying, it's a better use of my time than voting because the elections are a foregone conclusion.
Yes, the kind of leadership every community projects determines the involvement of the citizenry. So before you talk about the responsibility of the citizen, you talk about the kind of system that the government runs on. First is the fact that if I believe that the election is going to produce somebody who will have my interests at heart, then I'm going to just be committed to it. So it still boils down to the issue of leadership. Now, in the letters of the alphabet, you have A, B, C to Z. You see RST. It means that the result you obtain in every governance that you do or you participate in is subject to the system that you run. We currently run a fraudulent political system where even the members of the parties do not get to decide who is their candidate at the end of the day.
You think it applies across board?
It applies across board.
Across all political parties.
All political parties. See, you may see that you may think that the greatest evil that we have is the party in power. Go to the small party. Can I quickly tell you a story?
Before you tell that story, we have Trudy. Trudy is calling from Lagos. Trudy, good morning. Please go ahead with your comment. Good morning.
Good morning, Trudy.
I want to talk about the implementation of the
Trudy, this is still. Can you hear? The audio is still poor, and I'm hoping it's not from our own end as well. Please call back. But I know he wanted to speak to the immortalization of Humphrey Nwosu, and I really want to hear.
Maybe you could speak away from your
device,
the mouthpiece.
The mouthpiece. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but you're going to tell us a story about political parties.
I was going to tell you a story. I had traveled to pick a nomination form of a political party, and the woman leader of the state had called me and said, "Oh, the normal tradition is that when you pick the party form and you come back, we must arrange women to welcome you at the airport and bring you back that you have picked the nomination form." So eventually when I got to Abuja, I couldn't pick the form. And when I returned, I was trying to convince her to say, "Oh, I didn't pick the form, so there's no need for you to mobilize people."
Empty-handed.
She said, "No, that's the tradition." I said, "Okay." Back and forth, back and forth. I told her I mobilized the people. She mobilized the people to come welcome me. And after, when they were going, she came to me and said, "We have to demobilize them." That means that we have to give them money to return.
It's true.
So I was like,
He who mobilizes,
yes,
must
but
mobilize.
so I was like, no, I didn't get the form in the first place. So there's no point. So when the pressure was much, I said, "Okay, do you have that amount of money with you?" She said, "Yeah, well, she's going to do it." So she demobilized the people. I have not got to my hotel when she called me. I said, "Hey, Oga, the money I sent to you, when are you going to pay me back?" I'm like, "You don't, just calm down a bit." But here's the story. By the time we came back the next day to have meeting with the women, I just took an initiative to speak to the women. I asked them, "Did the woman leader give you money yesterday?" When they mentioned the amount of money, the ridiculous amount of money this woman gave them, I almost cried for Nigeria that day. And it's easy for me to say, "Oh, the party in power is the most devilish." Our election, our political parties are populated by a lot of people that are not supposed to determine our destiny direction. And that's why you and I, who are exposed, must participate in the process of election in Nigeria.
I mean, imagine the values they instilled or the children pick up from. So the family is really important.
Okay, we'll come back. I mean, that's an interesting story. I have a lot of thoughts there.
Yeah.
But let's hear from Comrade Igwe calling from Ebonyi. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, all right. Whilst they try to connect him, is there a possibility that you could have refused the mobilization and the demobilization? I don't know if you would have been able to progress.
Dotun is too much of a judge.
The thing is that the way we tailor our political system, and sometimes it's very easy, if you had not participated in the process, you can come on television and demonize everybody. The process is like a criminal hole. Only a few people will pass through the hole and remain sane at the end of the hole. Because the way the political system is built, President Tinubu today, except if he wants to be, maybe forget, will tell you the amount of money he spent to be president, you will pity him. Our entire system, from politics, from primary election, you heard when Dele Momodu said that at a point somebody was giving up to $30,000 to each.
So what does this say about intention, your pure heart, your will to work, you're driven to make a change?
Which pure heart?
Okay, so what happens to all of that?
So let's hear from Comrade Igwe. We've finally been able to patch to him. Then we can come back and talk about your pure heart and motivation to work. Comrade Igwe, good morning. Please go ahead with your comments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The modernization of the state. I think the man should be modernized. Everyone says IPC, but no IPC will not be modernized one day. The problem is the system of this country that everything is upside down. Just like my brother said, passing a bill of compulsory voting. Let's just look at the system like I said. Where the leaders who are supposed to be teaching us the way forward are the ones spoiling the system.
level. They still come back to the village to ask us to vote for them, and we'll vote again. Maybe most times they will come with their money. And if you reject the money, others will collect the money and vote. And when once people have started sending their vote, even though you try to bring a law that will force people to vote, no problem, they will be voting. There needs thinking. Africa has made a remarkable history in this country. Not even in the country, in the whole world. After Abiola, I've never seen a kind of massive voting, except the recent one of P2B. But I want to let you people know that the system is down. Check about police. You know that in Nigerian police today, the policemen out there don't get their entitlement from IG or from whoever controls that. And you see them today going out with a hilos being donated by the governor, and they still be the ones fueling the vehicle to do security work by collecting from people on the roads. So where will you start? NSA today was supposed to be relying on will arrest people and keep them in army cell for getting to 6 months now. The one that happened in Ebonyi, and nobody is doing anything about it. No investigation, no nothing. My family men are all dumped in that army cell today from last year. Nobody have ever said anything about it. And we are talking about the same system where when you vote somebody to be in power, the person will start intimidating you. I think the constitution something should be done about the Nigerian constitution. That is the only thing all these mess can defeat. We should come together and do something about the constitution. Let the constitution stop hunting poor masses. Let the constitution stop hunting people that does not have rank. We should have every constitution whereby you can open up and say something and somebody will not come to arrest you for saying the right thing. You know what's going on in Abia now? The governor was saying the other day that he wants to start the process of releasing people from correctional center for speaking out their mind for the other past government. Why should such people be detained because they are opening up to say this is you're doing is not good? And how can one take correction when somebody is not there to talk to you? When somebody is not there to push your illegalities or whatever thing you are doing? So please, the media should try more. I know you people are trying your best. I always follow your program, but you people should extend the time because people have a lot to say. The country is messed up.
We have good news for you in that regard. We are actually listening and we're extending the time of the show.
Okay, that would be nice. So I think I rest my case, please.
Very much, Comrade Igwe, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah, yes. Before Comrade Igwe came on board, we were having a conversation about listen to a politician like Barack Obama. You're inspired. I believe in change. I have the will to. I want to serve my people. Genuine intentions. Yeah. Can you talk us through the process of if you want to participate? Enough of waiting and observing. I really want to take power in my hands and change things from local government level. Let's start from the local government, since it's the closest to the people.
Yes, so I think the best way is actually to populate our election process with people of integrity. What do I mean? When you have political parties that are populated by people who want true change for the community, you are going to get through. But our political system as it is built now is like a firefighter. What it does is to pour water on the fire of your good ambition and intention.
So can you walk us through the process?
Okay, so it's as simple as you have a community of 300 people. So the best thing, if you have caught the fire of change, the best thing to do is to actually motivate people that are not part of the election process now to be part of it. So when all of them join the political party, it becomes exceedingly difficult, if not practically impossible, for manipulators to manipulate. See, the greatest manipulation starts from picking the candidate. That's what I'm saying.
No, but it's easy to manipulate people that are hungry.
Of course, you cannot solve the problem of hunger, and we must know that the solution to every hungry community lies in hunger. It's going to get to a point where people will become hungry, that they will no longer have interest in food. They'll be hungry for betterment of their children's future. And we are going to get there. The only thing that will take us there is hardship. You know, a philosopher said that when a community becomes hard, it begins to build strong people. People who are going to say no to whatever 2,000 naira that you share on the day of election. We are still going to go. We will get there. We are going to get there. The hardship is getting to a point now where people have generally cut down on their vanities. And we are going to get to a point where we will know.
When you say people have cut down on their vanities, which people are you talking about? Are you talking about the political elite?
I'm talking about Nigerian people. Political elites don't get to tighten their bed.
Exactly.
They live in opulence and prosperity, and they only expect the people to tighten their bed. But I think we should not make the people helpless by thinking that the solution to their problem lies entirely in the hand of the political elite. It's going to get to a point where people will know that the only thing they can do is to procure good government for themselves. Let me cite an example of the religious house that I belong to, the church. Now, formally, it is evil for anybody to go into politics. In fact, when I ran for office, when I came back to the church, and it was that bad, when I ran for office and came back to the church leadership did not want me in sensitive position within the church. Why? Because I've gone to dine with the devil in their mindset. Yeah, you understand? But now, churches are now opening the Department of Politics and Government because they know 2020 taught them that bitter lesson. God do it. God is not going to do it. Government is going to make one policy that's going to stop everybody from going to church. So people are becoming wiser. They want to get involved in their government, and you can see it in 2023 election. Nobody will have known that Ashwaju will lose in Lagos, but he lost in Lagos. No amount of pardon could make him win in Lagos. That's what we're talking about. We are getting to that point gradually.
Okay, we are hoping that we get to the point where our elections can be judged free, fair, where people will be confident to go to the polls knowing that what they put in is what they will get out. It's not what I ordered versus what I got.
And people with good heart can also succeed.
Yes, good heart and drive and vision, and you don't have to mobilize and demobilize. Thank you so much, Dotun Ojon, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.